Hello, and welcome to Book Circle. I'm Earl Wyenberg. This time we will continue our reading of Past Master by R.A. Lafferty. Chapter 7 On Thunder Mountain. They wakened to trumpets. Some were made trumpets indeed, blown by the night guard and the day guard changing places, and by the special honor guard, and some were trumpeter birds set to going by the instrumental trumpets. The trumpeter birds were of better tone and timbre. The Emperor Charles rose grandly to begin the second full day of his reign, if it should prove to be a full day. Not for 30 reigns have there been so many grand people in the court of Goslar at one time, said he. Strike a medal for it, man. I don't know how to strike a medal for it, the man said. If you find someone who does, tell him to strike a medal for it, the emperor said. Put my own fine hand on it. The motto, they come to me like eagles. Why, here is a dead saint from old earth, the devil kid of Astrove, a necromancer of unlikely powers, a transcendent Ansel, a priest of St. Klingensmith, an avatar who burns up bodies, and Pilot Paul, who is a broken-faced old warlock. Not for 30 reigns have there been so many grand people at court at one time, and not for 30 reigns have there been so handsome an emperor at the head of the court. How long a time has 30 reigns been? Thomas asked him. It has been what we call a rapid year, the emperor said, perhaps the most rapid ever. The green-robed Father Adopter of the Order of St. Klingensmith said Mass for all the people in Goslar and all the people who came in at the news of it, a little over 100 people in all. It was a simple and clear Mass with a surprisingly intelligent sermon, and the uncanny miracle came shockingly and vividly alive at the consecration. It was as though the heavens opened on command and the Spirit came down, which is what happened. Even the skeptical Thomas felt the stirrings of faith in himself again. It was a miraculous morning, so why not believe in miracles again for a while? As he said, Thomas often rediscovered his belief for a little while in the mornings. What they do here in Goslar, the green robe told Thomas after the Mass, is set up a token realm till the real shall be rediscovered, and the reality will be rediscovered, and the golden palsy will pass. Happy death for you, good Thomas. You are too rapid to wish happy deaths to persons, the Thomas said, and the Mass this morning was a very old one. For those here present who will die this day, 'twas meant to be addressed to a world and not to small Goslar of under 100 people, where it is very unlikely that any will die this day. It was addressed to your party and to myself, of whom several will die this day. Were I not certain of this, I would have said another Mass of the day. And the necromancer also says that the most of us who go to the mountain will die this day. It was a pretty thing. It was a pretty complex of things, Thomas said in his early morning faith beginning to withdraw from him again. As a child, I lived it, and as a young man, I still respected it. In my maturity, I still call it the noblest of all superstitions. The Church of the Saints lived quite a long while, and historically, I seem to have an ironic part in it. It died meanly in civilized Astrobe, I understand, but I believe it will die more quietly and harmlessly here in the Ferals. You who are to die this year know that it will not die at all, Thomas, and know also that nothing dies quietly in the Ferals. Whatever is set on here shrieks and shrills if it be killed, and will return to life again and again. Even the meanest reptile dies hard in the Ferals, and should a great thing do less? It will not lie down and die quietly, but why are you so afraid of being associated with superstition? Is it not a superstition of your own to climb the mountain? Perhaps it is, Green Monk. It is an inner compulsion of mine, and I must do it. It is on the thing that I fault the citizens of Golden Astrobe. They have never lifted up their eyes to the mountains. They are like blind men in this, and where are they mistaken? What if all in the world were blind to color except certain small boys? That, I believe, is the case on Astro, but it may make the color gazing a mere boyish thing. What is the good of gazing at a pile of rocks? I will leave off such boyishness after I become world president, but this day I am hooked on the mountain bait. We be on our way, good Thomas, Rimrock the Ansel interrupted. If I go up the mountain, it will be by a watery way I know on the inside of it, up the Mother Spring, for it is a mountain full of water. The copperhead will be on the mountain top before you and will perform certain abominations there. And then he will leave. We ride shotgun for you this day again. But it will not help greatly. Most of you will still die on the mountain, Copperhead the necromancer said. And the two of them were gone. Shall I kill the Scrivener thing in the machine shed? The Emperor Charles the 612th asked. No, of course not, Thomas answered sharply. Release him to me. He is one of my advisers and a member of my party. It was rather a cruel trick to shut him up in the shed last night, and I do often find such royal wit tedious. But he is a machine and not a man, the Emperor insisted, and as a machine he has, though he may not know it, a sender in his head. It works without his knowledge whether he is asleep or awake. It is his code signal, and every programmed person, even if he be 9/10 human and 1/10 programmed, has it. It is by this code signal that the programmed killers so easily trail you. It is suicide for you to climb the mountain. You know that, Thomas. The programmed killers will encircle the pinnacle and have you caught in the tall trap. I worry about them not at all, Thomas said. I am a special case, and I may not die till my own special time has come. Ah, but they will kill members of your party. Promise me this, that you will at the appropriate moment kill the Scrivener and cast him into a ravine to mislead the killers, and then to make your mountain climb quickly in the interval. No, I will not cast one of my own members to the dogs. We will climb the mountain as though they were no such thing as the killers, and for me there are not. I repeat, they will kill members of your party, Thomas, and several of these are sometimes citizens of my realm. I will charge you with their blood. You will charge me with nothing, Charles. You are only a fuzz-faced boy playing in a cluttered backyard. Yes, I suppose that some members of my party will be murdered by the killers, so let it be. It will be a winnowing, a cleansing. Those who die will be those who deserve to die. I myself will not be false to the vision. I'll blazon the motto on my own breast. The killers strike only those who are a threat to the golden life of Astrobe. I'd kill them too if I knew which they were. I welcome the killers. They seem to be mistaken as to my own role and purpose, but they are inhibited from actually killing me when the time comes. If there are enemies of the great thing in my party, let them die. I expel you from this realm, Thomas More, the young emperor cried sharply. You're more a mechanical thing than any machine. You're a string puppet that's left off being a man. What vision could anyone be faithful to who would sell his own brothers and partisans to the killers? I thought you were a man, and you are only a mannequin. Your man's parts were left behind when they brought you forward through time. You stink up my woods and swamps. Take your machine things and your cravens and go. We will see if the real people follow you. What? I'm aghast. You go with him, Devil Kid? He's worthless, you know. Yes, I go with him, Charles 612, and I can't make you understand, Evita said. He is not entirely worthless, or not forever. He only seems so now. Yes, he's become a dull lump of metal and will never serve for a knife now. But he will serve for something else. I followed worse to the end, and his end won't be very long now. Not in the Ferals it sure won't be, not in Goslar, the Emperor said. But you others, wait, wait, how are you so wrong? The Paul and the Adopter go with him also. Why? Why? You heard him throw in with the things and leave off being a man. And I've heard distant bells tolling and seen a world arise at the sign of the rolling head, Charles, the green robe said easily. Believe me, there is more here than is apparent. It's my business to be with this lost sheep this day. He is the woolly ram with the double sign on him. He is in scripture, and he must be saved, not for himself, but for the double sign on him. But it's to your own death, Father Adopter. As the Emperor, I am given these insights, and I see your death today because of him. Even in martyrdoms, there should be a certain economy. Do not sacrifice the worthy for the worthless. No man who swells up in such towering anger as the Thomas does now is worthless, Charles. He is a cloud full of lightning, and not at all as facile in this as he seems to be. I will stay with him this day. I say he's full of hot wind and nothing else, said the Emperor Charles. He cannot lighten and he cannot thunder. He can but fume in his wrongness. I say he is a wether and no woolly ram. Were I not suddenly caught in my own uncertainty, I'd settle with you, Fuzzface, Thomas said closely. I was never one to be certain that I was right for long, and I'm not certain now. He's an instrument, Charles. Try to understand that, said Paul, and I will stay with him also. The Emperor Charles withdrew in blazing silence. He had Scrivener released to them, and his contempt for them scorched the very grass when he did so. The members of the party were not very cheerful or much in accord as they began the ascent of the electric mountain. All were ashamed, and they did not know of what. Yet it was a stimulating morning and a challenging climb, and the death threat did call up excitement in most of them. Maxwell and Slider didn't like it, but there was a curious change in Scrivener, who was perhaps a programmed person. "This is my test, Thomas," the Scrivener said as they climbed. "I have been rethinking things all the night. Whether I am a programmed person or an old recension human, I do not know, nor how much I may be of each. But I have found something out here that tells me that you yourself are wrong to hold the dream of Astrove as perfect. It is not. It is only half the thing. It must be conjoined to some other thing that I do not understand yet. Perhaps, after all, we must kill the devil afresh every day. You are an old line human, Thomas, yet I accuse you of setting the human thing too low and the mechanical thing too high. So there are machines that walk like men these several hundred years, and perhaps I'm one of them. But there are also men who swing against their own kind and become more partisan of the machine than the machines themselves. Do not be one of them. So the programmed killers hunt down and kill only those who are a threat to the Astrobe dream, and you all believe they will discount me as no threat? We will see who they will kill and who they will pass by when they have us in the trap. For you lead us to the trapping, Thomas. I tell you that I have become a boiling threat to the one part of the too easy thing." They climbed, and then they climbed more steeply. The vegetation fell away and became more sparse. Now they were climbing a devil tower of magma and iron, rough and sharp and blood drawing. Above them, the mountain spire was a pinnacle, as a cartoonist might draw one, sharp and needle-like as a burlesque of a spire, and with a clean white donut cloud encircling it and settling down a third of the way from the top. The green robe caught a commer's condor in a flung net. They tore it apart and ate it raw. It was past mid-morning, and they had been climbing hard. "There is another donut-shaped cloud around the spire," Evita said. "It is a black one, and below us. The programmed killers have come in full patrol and have the peak surrounded. They climb not so fast nor so well as we do, but they climb more relentlessly, and they do not rest. This isn't the death I had planned for us all, Holy Thomas." "Never mind," said Thomas. "We will rest, and then we will ascend again. Electric Mountain, they call it, do they? Aye, it tingles and is full of sparks." There was an excitement entering them all as they rested there. "There is a story that one of my grandmothers told me when I was small," Scrivener broke in with a nervous, half-metallic voice. "It is from her, I believe, that I have my mechanical descent. In the early days, she said, the mechanical men, her own people, wished that they had a mythos as the humans had, a mystique, a god or a founder hero, a sleeping king, perhaps. This, of course, was before the humans had given up the old hero tales entirely. Every old Earth nation, my grandmother told me, had its mythos of a sleeping king who would one day awaken and rule again in a new golden age. Of sleeping kings, there was Alaric, the slayer of Rome, who was buried underneath the Busento River. Its course changed for the burial and changed back again to flow over him. And he was to arise from it one day and lead the Gothic element, that shaggy thing that is the basis of a dozen peoples. There was Arthur of Britain in kingly sleep in an ensorcelled room at the bottom of a lake. There was Brian Boru of the Irish, buried on horseback in a pit with great stones heaped around him, and when he wakened, he would scatter the stones and ride again. There was the Cid of the Spanish, not buried at all, but riding forever a horse in death sleep over dark moors in Estremadura. There was Barbarossa of the Germanies, asleep at a table in a cave in a mountain, and his beard grown through the table. There was Henry of the Tudors, immured in a room with 6 wives, and they not in accord, Thomas laughed. There was Kennedy of the North Americas, riding forever in an open automobile in an obscure place, Scrivener continued. There was Roadstorm, the early freebooter king of Astrobe and all scattered Earths, marooned in an unknown orbit in his small spaceboat, the Star King. All of them are to return and lead their people once more. How can people form themselves without some such mythos? The early mechanical men of Astrobe wished to find such a legend in their past. They needed a sleeping king for their own solidarity. They sent to old Earth to see if they could not find some such mechanical sleeping king of their own to build a mythos upon. They went backward and further backward through lands and times to find the first mechanical thing that they could regify. They settled on an old, small, broken gear train that had been taken from an Egyptian tomb. It had hardwood cogs and bronze bearings. Its use was not known. It was a clumsy thing, but it was the earliest thing they could find in the true mechanical spirit. They brought it to Astrobe and said that it was their sleeping king. They said that it would awaken one day and lead them. And the human people snickered at them, at us, for it. Then Udin came, the celestial nothingness. Put away such toys as that, Udin said. I am your God and your king. And so he has been God and king for all programmed persons from that day to this. And quite soon he will be God and king of all beings of every sort. But we were his first people, we the mechanicals. He growls and grows, and all other kings die. But last night I rejected him. I thought about it all night, and I rejected him. So what am I now? I am not machine, and I am not man. What is left to one who has rid himself of the deified nothingness? It cannot be that I am left with nothing. It was the nothing that I rejected. There was no response to this shrill little pleading of Scrivener. They all looked at him with half-shut eyes that frightened him. Scrivener had become alien to both his recensions. They began to climb again. Astrobe below them was a golden haze and greenery underneath the gold. But here the air had become blue, like Earth air, Thomas thought. They had ascended at least 2 kilometers in vertical distance. The mountain spire was irregular and rough. There was always handhold and foothold, but often of slashing sharpness. And high above them on an outcropping there stood a boy or a young man. He seemed a spire image, for there are such, but how had he got there and they not seen him before? It is my brother Adam, Evita said. I love him, but he is a bad omen. His coming always signifies death, usually his own, but he often takes others with him. He comes often during times of crisis, and he dies in bloody battles for what he believes is a cause. He is very good at dying. He does it a lot. The donut-shaped cloud around the spire above them had turned gray and blue and black. It was full of sparks and fire. It was now an electric torus. A commerce condor, swooping very near, came on them with black wings and cried croakingly, Thomas More is a fink. What did that fellow say? Thomas shouted. Was he not a bird? How could he cry out at me? But I heard him and saw him. No, you didn't, Thomas, the green robe said. You didn't believe the things you did see yesterday and the night, and now you see and hear things that are not there. This was hallucination. From here on up, we are in the region of hallucination. The most rational man ever born, if he ascended here, will suffer such. They are fluffs of ball lightning hovering about Electric Mountain. They are wind and spark and charged air. The shapes they take are both objective and subjective. One can shape them a little with one's own mind. I once met a talking horse on the ridge right above us, and talking horses are not able to scramble up this high on the spire. They came up to the boy Adam, and he joined their party silently. So handsome a boy, though his sister Evita had once said he was completely empty-headed. Never mind, he maintained his silence, so who should know? He moved well, he climbed well, it was said that he died well. He could have been the statue Greek youth, except that he seemed Jewish. The spinal deltoid and posterior trapezius, the bow-bending muscles, were well developed, and the bow had never been used on Astrobe. Ah, he was old statuary, all right, quite well done. He was nude, and nobody noticed. Had he been nude in all his other manifestations? They went up and up. They came through the gray Taurus cloud and into other clouds that were gathering. The continental layout was open below them. It was now clear and bright below them and misty only in the little cone above them. With a shiver of triumph, they came to the top. It was a crooked-shaped plateau, an iron rock slope that looked like sponge and smelled of ozone. And someone had been there before them, very recently. The one who had been there was both necromancer and haruspex, and his recent studies were still spread out on the iron rock. But how had Walter Copperhead gotten there before them? How had he slipped down through them again? How had he avoided the programmed killers, if he had avoided them? And how had he managed to slay a giant rook? It was the entrails of the rook, the largest bird of Astrobe, that were spread out there. Elephant entrails were as nothing to these. Surely he had found the answers of riddles here. If they are not in the entrails of Rook, killed and spread out and studied on the top of Electric Mountain, then they are not anywhere in the art of Haruspis. Bless him, I love him and he loves them, Evita said. I'd leave him my own entrails did I not know that he will die before me. And another sort of entrails were spread out for them to see. They had come on first dusk as they stood there, and they drank in the view as though it were new apple wine. It was the entrails of the planet below them. There were the ferals and the glebe and the string of cities. There was the black-green astrobe of the feral strip they had just traversed, and the golden astrobe of the cultivated regions. There were the great golden cities at their close intervals. And there was Black Cathead and the gray Barrio, all of them giant things. The branch of the sea that cradled Wu Town and ended in a splinter of estuaries and canals at Cathead was a blue black green monster, writhing with strength and dotted with huge sea harvesters. There was Cosmopolis, standing high and wide in a special golden halo, the heart of civilized Astrobe. The reparation tower, which you see on the eastern fringe there, is the highest structure in a cosmopolis, Evita said. It was built about 100 years ago by one of my sons who was planet president. He had some bad ideas, and he did not, in spite of the reparation tower, offer enough reparation. I have had bad luck with my sons who achieved world presidents. I have not much more hope for my adopted son, Thomas, here. The brat child, Thomas asked Paul in the green robe in an aside. Is she really of an unnatural age? I don't know, Thomas, the green robe said. 35 years ago, when I first saw her, she was of the same apparent age as now. Remember that almost everything is possible. Remember also that she lies a lot, said Paul. One could almost see the feral strips feeding cultivated Astrobe and the golden cities with their controlled counterpoint ecology. The muscles and the nerves and the veins of the planet were revealed from this height. One could see the black cancer of Cathead eating into the land and the sea and the clouding air. And yet, as the green robe had said, the civilized Astrobe was only a thin yellow froth on a small part of that world. The old orb planet had but to shiver its hide and all would be gone. The old orb animal had but to shiver its hide and all would be gone, and it looked like a hide shivering evening. Electric Mountain could be climbed. It took nothing but strength and endurance and a little care. But could anyone ever climb Corona Mountain there that was sheer and overhung and appeared on the verge of toppling? Or Magnetic Mountain? Great sky over us, look at that, Tor. Or Dynamo Mountain, which had been the feminine one in the mythologies, and the other three her consorts. Which was highest of them all? Who should climb her? These four spires were known as the Thunder Mountains, a startling group. In the rough diamond between them was a country so harsh as to make even the feral strips look tame. This was deeply muscled country that had sinuous depths and involved hills and ramparts. It was prototype nightmare country where everything was bigger and woollier. It was heap upon heap and spires rising in clusters to the cross-buttressed heights of the mountains. And now, as the darkness began more to deepen, all the high places were outlined with an electric blue glow. It uplifts the soul, Thomas said with some awe. Be careful, little Thomas, Evita jibed. What has uplift to do with the golden mediocrity of Astrobe, with the blessed levelness? And the soul, Thomas, is it not an obscenity and a superstition, except for a little while in the morning? Push me not so far, brat child. I say me my words, and I think me my thoughts, but to what should they correspond? And yet I can see that when I become world president, these high feelings will have to be leveled down. They become too rich for the imagination. Aye, Thomas, you'll tell the mountains to lie down like puppies, the green robe said, and the lightning you will tell it to get back in its sheath. Do you not know that this also is part of the controlled ecology of Astrobe? The high wild feelings attract a very small number of persons and they repel the others. And only a very small number of persons are needed here for the balance. The persons who hold these tall feelings are regarded as animals among the animals, part of the fauna balance of the wild lands. Even the high lightning here, which you will be amazed at very soon, is treated as a commodity like any other commodity. It is packaged and shipped down to Golden Astrobe, packaged as rain-trapped nitrogen and shipped by natural flow to the ultimate consumer. That is all it is from your viewpoint, not from mine, but it does come in a flashy package. And very soon the lightning did begin in spectacular earnest. Corona Mountain drew bolts out of the sky that appeared 100 kilometers long. The persons of the party seemed transparent or interiorly illuminated from the intense glow of it. It is odd when you can see the bones of skull and rib cage of a companion by a flash so bright that it has the properties of penetrating rays. Then the bolts of white and gold fire began to whip from peak to peak. A bullwhip 35 kilometers long snapped from Corona Mountain to Magnetic Mountain with a crooked light that literally blinded them all for a while. Here was the mystery of motion, the old paradox solved, a whip of light going so fast that it was in more than one place at one time. It was on every jag and crag at once, and yet it was but a single point of light, only a streak in being of simultaneous appearance. Or was it the Empyrean itself, the infinity of blinding light that is everywhere in the outside, but is seen only when the false sky is ripped open for the blinding moment? Then Electric Mountain itself was struck by a bolt that boiled the air and melted the rocks, and the thunderclap knocked them all to their knees. Thunderstruck, they were literally astonished, which is the same thing Latinized, impaled and numbed in every sense by the blow that shook the mountain. Ah, what can come after such a blow as that? Thomas sighed. From below, the boy Adam cried out. It comes a thunder with more sulfur in it. They strike while we are blinded and amazed. Man ramparts, roll boulders, topple them. Who's been doing the thinking for this outfit? Evita shrilled. I had intended to, but we've all left our wits. The iron dogs are upon us. Are we people still, or do we fall to them? The programmed killers surged up from below while total darkness alternated with white light and black light, all of them blinding. Not me, you tin scurry, Thomas shouted. Not me, you things. I've not been false to the vision. I've been false to everything else. He sent a small boulder down on them in a two-handed heave. I'm not so partisan of you as I was, Tin Horns. You're a mistake, and it is not to be tolerated that someone makes a mistake as to myself. Not me, you clanking fools, not me. I've never threatened the dream of Astrobe. Leave off. No, you will not? Have at it then, you monster machines. I'll battle you to any end you want. Thomas roared and carried on. Others fought silently, but the battle was not going well for his party. The boy Adam, faster and more mercurial than the rest of them, toppled one of the programmed killers backwards, and it fell 1,000 meters through the glancing and sheer darkness. And at the same instant, in a distant place, another programmed killer was created to take its place and was given the same assignment. Paul and the Green Robe, Scrivener and Thomas, Maxwell and the Devil Kid Evita rolled down boulders on them and fought down on them from above. Drive down in the narrow slot between the neckpiece and the lorica or breastplate, the Green Robe shouted, and he had slashed a hand knife onto a pole to make a spear or pike for just such a driving. There is a nexus there, a relay center. Get them there in that narrow slot, or they get us wherever we stand. Ah, I am the one they disregard, Slider said sadly, a whispered regret that cut through the bedlam. So I am no threat to them at all? I thought that I would be. I'd gladly die, but I do not like being treated as though I were already dead. We've changed places, you whelp, Scrivener howled. Who's the man now, and who's the machine? Me they do not disregard. I threaten their thing. I oppose it as strongly as the roughest man in Cathead. Backwards and down you go, you clanking devil. I'll battle you all while there's life left in me. But it was only for a little while. And then there was no life left in Scrivener. He had opted for a man very late, and the machines knew the diagram of him as a machine. The programmed raiders smashed Scrivener dead there. Every flicker in him, both man and machine, came to a stop. The battle in the sky still dwarfed the death battle on the mountain spire. The thunder burst ears and knocked the breath out of body. It scrambled wits, both human chemical and programmed gel cell mechanical magnetic. The light from the sky turned ordinary light black, and there were big, empty, grinning faces in the sky like high cliffs that had been there always. Big faces that had always been there, but never seen except by the most intense flash of insane lightning. It's the many faces of Udin, their great nothingness and king, Maxwell cried. Where's the face of our king? Would we know it if we saw it? And now the lightning had reached hysterical heights, as had the thunder and the relentless assault of the programmed killers. Bleeding ears and blinded eyes, and the rock iron surface slippery with the entrails of those who were first ripped apart. And we will conclude the Battle of Electric Mountain next time.